Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Capital Conflab. From rugby and football to korfball and kabaddi, we are here to take you through the very best of sport the wonderful city of Cardiff has to offer. So sit back, turn up the volume, and let us take you through the next half an hour here on Capital Conflab. Well, as we say, thank you very much for listening to this episode, our first full-length episode of Capital Conflab. We've been excited about this for quite a while, haven't we, mate?
Oh, mate, I've been looking forward to this since this person said yes, and I think it's going to be a good one as well.
Yeah, and we are delighted to say that Andy Campbell, the former Cardiff City striker, has come on our podcast. A man who didn't have the longest spell at the club. I think he was there for about 4 years, but the scorer of one of the best goals.
Oh, one of the best goals, probably most memorable goal. What was your memory of the game?
I mean, I was there. I went with my mum, I think. I can't remember who else. I was 2003, wasn't it? I'd have been 8 years old.
Yeah. I
remember it being, and Andy will allude to this when you hear the full interview, it wasn't the best game. It was quite a poor game. It was very cagey, very, very cagey, and you knew it was the sort of game when neither side wanted to lose. It really had that cup final feel about it. And once again, Andy will allude to this in the podcast. When he came on for Rob Earnshaw, there was really a feeling of this is like a massive decision from Lenny Lawrence at the time. And that was a huge call.
Of course.
And no one can take away from him that goal. It's an absolute... He couldn't have hit it better. He really couldn't have hit it any better
Such
than
a good
he did.
finish.
No, and you know, that whilst I was going down the city from the age of 4, that really cemented it. That was seeing...
So it got you even hooked even more to the club.
Oh, I mean, it's what set me up for life. You know,
yeah.
I think there was... I don't know the exact number, but half the Millennium Stadium was City fans. So it's over 30,000 fans there. And it's great. The Ninian Park was brilliant, seeing 15,000 fans down there, week in, week out. But seeing the 30,000 people go absolutely crazy. And on the streets of Cardiff afterwards, it was... You know, the Wembley games were great, but there was something quite special about that, being in Cardiff. He talks about how nervous it was, wasn't it, being in front of the home fans, so to speak. But, you know, there's been some great goals since that. I mean, I'm not sure if you've got one which stands out. A few... Whittingham against Leicester in the playoffs was...
Yeah, it was, that always the noise of the free kick hitting the post.
Hitting the post, yeah.
When the way end erupting, that's always serves good in the memory.
Ben Turner against Liverpool as well.
Ben Turner, Liverpool, I remember starting nearly crying because of how ecstatic I was when he scored the equaliser, and my dad put his head in his hands because he was a Liverpool fan.
Of course, yeah.
So,
those are the only goals which really jumped to mind about being on a par. I mean, there's been some worldies, Hudson's and Whittingham against Barnsley, if you're talking about the best goals scored. But in terms of importance, I'm not sure there's many that beat this. Because this was...
not many.
After we lost to Stoke the year before in the playoffs, we needed to win this. And I think it's the 2 years we've had at the Premier League, whether it was quite a few years later, I think a lot of that is down to this goal.
It is. I mean, this was started the revolution, I suppose.
Yeah, it started the ball rolling. So who knows if we'd have been here, would have been cheering on a Premier League club for 2 seasons recently without this goal. Anyway, without further ado, again, big thanks to Andy for coming on. We wanted to go through his entire time at Cardiff, not just that goal. So we thought we'd start right at the start and what brought him to Cardiff.
When my move first came around, I spoke to Lenny and Alan Cork at length about coming on loan, and I was umming and ahhing. It was a big move from going from the Premier League to League One. But after speaking to Lenny and Alan Cork, it was a move that I really wanted to make. And so I spoke to them on the Friday, agreed everything on the Friday, and they went down to play. This was the week after they beat Leeds. They played Wigan Athletic away, and they lost 4-0. And Alan lost his job on the bus on the way home and got sacked. So there's me thinking, oh well, there's a potential move going out the window. You know what I mean? So I spoke to Corky straight after, said how disappointed I was, and he obviously was looking to get back into football, so I was thinking about holding tight and seeing what happened and things. But Lenny obviously rang me the day after and said that he's got the job and he would still like the move to go ahead and everything. So I was extremely keen. I'd worked with Lenny before at Middlesbrough, so I knew what it was all about. I knew some of the players, Cav, etc. from the Middlesbrough days. And so it was a no-brainer really. I wanted to go get some football in, play some regular football and see where it went. I didn't really look back really during my loan spell. And and I was keen to make it permanent from the day I walked through the door, really, because it was a club which reminded me a little bit of Middlesbrough. Ninian Park and Ayresome Park were similar places to play football, and the group of players was a lot stronger than I anticipated when I first walked in the door, and I was keen to see where this journey was going to be. You know, that I once spoke to Sam, and Sam told me his dream about getting to the Premier League, and of course I laughed and thought it was a pipe dream, because you know what I mean. I'm sat in a League One meeting, so to speak. You know what I mean, with a management and chairman who had the same vision, but as a player, you don't really believe big vision like that. You look at a little step and progress forward, because for me to get in the Premier League with Cardiff City was probably never going to be in my time frame. You know what I mean, unless we got back-to-back promotions, which was a really, really tough ask at that time of football. And you know what I mean. And looking forward now, the way the club's got, obviously it's Sam Man's dream, and it was his dream at the time. So I'm glad that the club got there. You know what I mean, and been up there for him, really, because he had a vision at the start, and it's been fulfilled really by a host of players, managers, supporters. You know what I mean, we've all done it for him, really.
What was Lenny Lawrence like to work under? You said you worked with him at Borough and Cardiff.
He was like a dad. You know what I mean? That's probably what the first and foremost thing I'd say. You know what I mean? The way he talked to you, the way he handled you. He wasn't really. You know, he loved football, but he wasn't. You know what I mean? I would say full on with football. He knew you. He wanted to get to know you as a person, and handled a group of players really well. You know what I mean? We weren't the easiest to dress with. We had experienced players. We had outgoing people, people who would be outspoken. But you know, he managed us really well and got the best out of us. And obviously, there was a disappointment of the first season when I was there. Obviously, get beaten in the playoffs by Stoke. You know, but his first real season, the following season, you know what I mean, we started well, and we didn't really look back. And he deserved that success. You know what I mean, because of the effort and the things he put in on and off the pitch. You know.
Would you say Lenny Lawrence is like one of the first managers you had who were really good at man management?
Yeah, I 100%. You know, I came from Middlesbrough, Brian Robson, and obviously Brian left Middlesbrough before I moved on, and he was the same. He knew the dressing room inside out, and he picked certain people, and the players he brought in fitted the dressing room, and the dressing room really responded to that. And you know what I mean, he didn't come in, he wasn't a shouter, he wasn't a screamer. You know what I mean? That we knew he was disappointed when we didn't perform the way that he wanted us, and he really got the best out of players on and off the pitch, and brought us all together, and he just knew how to handle a group of players. And to be fair, since his time at Charlton, I'm going back in the day when he first came through management, you know, I mean, you don't manage all them games, 1,000 games plus, if you're a joker at what you do, you know. So he's had a really, really good and successful managerial career.
You mentioned the Stoke game, which was in the loan spell before you made it a permanent move. How much was the sort of, because Cardiff at that time were knocking on the door for promotion up to what's now the Championship. How much did the defeat, obviously we'll move on to the season after, how much did that defeat in the playoffs sort of spur you on the following season to sort of reach where you did?
Collectively, I think it obviously spurred us on a hell of a lot, but individually, in myself and all the others, you know, I mean, we spoke about it probably on the phone and met up during the summer and made sure that wasn't going to happen again. You know, that I'd finished the season. Obviously, that was a night game, wasn't it? That we played Stoke. And Lenny said that after the game, he said, "Go and get yourselves on holiday." He said, "I'll be in touch about what day we're going to come back." So, I was going to go back and stay in Cardiff for a couple of days, but straight after the game, I was annoyed and frustrated and upset about what had happened. I drove back to Middlesbrough.
Oh wow!
Just straight after the game, and didn't get back till about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And it was probably the best thing I did, because by the time I drove back, it gave me an understanding of what had just happened. I'd thought about the game constantly all the way home, driving back, and realised quite quickly how determined I was to make sure that wasn't going to happen again. I was extremely disappointed the way that the game finished in 90 minutes with them scoring late, extra time they scored late again, and I was determined to get myself fit, in good shape, carry on all the way through the summer to make sure that we give our best, give ourselves the best possible chance to get promoted the next season, and to not have to do the playoffs again. We wanted to go up as champions, you know. Notoriously, teams who get beaten in the playoffs, the next season they have a really strong season, and normally go up automatically, like QPR did the season after they got beat by us in the playoff final. So, you know, we wanted to do that and give ourselves the best possible chance. And thankfully, you know what I mean, we all stayed together as a group. You know what I mean, we didn't make that many wholesale changes in the summer. We kept a strong nucleus of players, and that showed the ambition of the club for me. And then we kicked on as a whole group.
I was going to say, because I looked up the stats for that next season and the season where he went up, and it was over 11 players in that team made 40 appearances in the league, which, as you say, the core group was, and Ernie bagging in 35 goals. Always.
Yeah, well, I think when we started pre-season, we had a really good pre-season. We got ourselves in really good shape and had some really good pre-season results, games, performances, and took it on into the first game against Oldham, and then obviously then we played the League Cup game at Boston, and we kicked on forward, and some good sides in that league that year. And to be fair, we deserved everything we got. And, we were unlucky not to probably get a little bit closer and get promoted automatically. But if someone was going to offer us promotion the way we got it as a group, you take it because it's the best way to go up, but it's obviously the most nerve-wracking as well. So you've got to be very careful what you wish for.
What was your relationship like with the other strikers at the time? Ernie, obviously Peter Thorne and Leo, who I saw you were chatting with the other day with the Cardiff City podcast.
Yeah, well, we got on really well. There was Gav Gordon as well, and obviously my first year we had Paul Brayson. So we knew that during the season, a 55 game season, hopefully, that you're going to interact with each other on the pitch. So you've got to get on off the pitch. There's no point having a duel where there's no respect or you don't get on with each other. That I started the season against Oldham, scored the first goal. I was rested for that midweek game against Boston, which I was disappointed about because I wanted to play. I just had a good game the first game of the season. Ernie scores a hat-trick, and you're only as good as your last game. And I remember Lenny pulled me before the Saturday game and told me that I wasn't going to play. I was extremely disappointed, but I accepted that someone's just scored a hat-trick, so how on earth you can drop a player? Because if that's the other way around, I'd come from Middlesbrough where Brian Wilson was very fair with me, that I'd kept Janini out of the team for a good 10, 12 games, and I know that if you're rewarded by performances on the pitch, and Ernie scored 3, deserved to stay in. I was waiting for him to have a dry spell. It didn't happen.
Never happened.
So but that got us promoted. That got us where we were. And if Ernie hadn't scored all them goals, then potentially we wouldn't have got in the playoffs. I wouldn't have scored my goal in the playoff final. So you've got to look at the bigger picture. And as a group, it pushed me on. It pushed the rest of the group and the rest of the players on. It gave us a successful season. And as a group, that season we're going to go down in history. So it's all good really for me.
You seem to have a great recollection of those games and every detail of that season. I'm not sure if you remember this, but at the end of it, sort of the regular season before we got to the playoffs, there was a sort of a really bad run of form for the club. There was only one goal, I think, in the last 5 games and no wins. You often say that momentum is key going into the playoffs. Did the heads dip at all before the Bristol City games?
I wouldn't say it did. I was injured for the last month of the season. I'd had an operation on my groin, and I decided to do that because it was looking that there was a chance that we were going to get in the playoffs. And the manager said to me that if you're going to be fit for the end of the season for the playoffs, you've got to get it done now. So it was a decision to make, flip of a coin. So I decided to get it done, and I came back for the playoffs against Bristol City. And obviously, we didn't go into it full of confidence, but we had something over Bristol City. The Bristol City didn't like coming to the knee. They didn't like playing us at their place either. There was a friendly rivalry on the pitch, but a huge, fierce rivalry off it. And I remember the first game wasn't the greatest of games. Thorny scored a wonderful header, but the game didn't have many chances in it. And the second leg again was probably one of the worst games I'd witnessed. And I was subbed that day. It didn't start very well. Didn't end very well for both sides. It didn't really get going. And normally playoff games are full of goals, full of incidents, and both games were probably horrific in terms of for supporters, for TV and stuff. But we got the job done, and we were there to do what we needed to do, and got ourselves in the playoff final. And again, not a very good game again. It was, but we got over the line in terms of performances, did what we needed to do, and 3 clean sheets in the playoffs is pretty rare. Yeah. So defensively we were solid, considering we'd lost a few games running up to the game in the playoff game. So I think it's something that we should have been really proud of.
What's your memory like of that day, of the playoff final day as a whole, not just the match itself?
For me, probably started Thursday. Obviously, our game was a Sunday. Thursday, I was struggling again with my groin, and I had to train. I hadn't trained a couple of days before, and Lenny gave me a deadline of you have to train today, or I can't put you in the squad. I'm picking the team today after training, and the subs, and I need you on the pitch if you're going to be fit. So I had a decision to make, and I trained. I felt really good. It's probably the best I've felt in about 8 weeks. And trained, felt all right, felt pretty sharp. Struggling fitness-wise a little bit, but leg-wise, injury-wise, I felt great. And for me, it started then. And obviously named on the bench. Some very, very extremely disappointing people. to not be in the team and in the squad. But I saw it for me, it was something to aim for, something to get myself sharp in the next couple of days for. And the build up for the game, we went out for a walk on the morning as we normally would, and the drive to Lend Stadium was just unbelievable. Supporters everywhere, and it just felt really real. But the pressure then just kicked in. In the changing room, it was a very sombre, quieter, probably dressing room than normal. You know what I mean? We were excited, but we were there professionally to do a job, and they were obviously quite loud. QPR, you know what I mean? Before the game, considering we beat them 4-0 previously at Loftus Road, they'd come there with a bit of arrogance, bit of confidence, bit of a swagger, and you know what I mean. I remember stood in the tunnel waiting to go out. You know what I mean? The boys were going to go out, and I was stood at the back, and you know what I mean. You heard how loud they were. Danny Shittu was shouting and screaming, and trying to get Mark Bircham as well, trying to put us off our game, and but it wasn't to be. You know what I mean? They played all right. We did all right. You know what I mean? But it was a game where it lacked a bit of quality, and thankfully we got there in the end. Really.
Do you reckon there was any more pressure because the game was in Cardiff and Millennium for you guys?
Yeah, 100%. I think our performance probably the performances showed that. We were nervous in the semi-final to get to the final because we knew that you know what I mean, what was at stake, and in the final that it was a case of we didn't want to lose, didn't dare lose, and you know what I mean. I remember looking up at the time and asking the referee how long, and you know what I mean, 5 minutes, 6 minutes to go, and thinking, what am I going to do? Where am I going to put my penalty? That was my only thought in my head was, where am I going to put my penalty? And you know what I mean, and I dare not miss. You know what I mean, because the pressure and the it wasn't worth thinking about what the possible outcome was going to be if we lost. And thankfully, it didn't have to materialise, because that would have been. We talk about pressure. I don't think the pressure would have got any bigger than that.
When you were on the bench, on the bench and warming up, what were your thoughts before coming on?
Just thinking that obviously from the previous game we played against QPR, that Ernie had loads of joy. He got himself a hat-trick against Danny Shittu and Clark Carlisle, but he wasn't getting no change at all from them. They shadowed him really well defensively. They'd covered and obviously done the homework and realised the mistakes they made in the previous game, and obviously probably about 35 minutes to go. You know what I mean, just after half time, Lenny told me to warm up, said that you're coming on. You know what I mean? Basically, it's you're coming on, things aren't working, you know what I mean, we need to win the game, and we can't afford to go 1-0 down chasing the game at this level. So told me to come on, and obviously when I'm coming on, it was only one person I knew was going to come off, because it was a like for like. Ernie comes off, I go on. Thorny was never an option for me, really. That, you know what I mean, that me and Ernie didn't really play together that much for it to take that kind of a risk. So obviously when Ernie's coming off, you do notice and you do hear the groans and the noises from the fans, because it was a big call. You know what I mean, Lenny, if he'd have lost that game and he brought off the superstar of the team, you know what I mean, he potentially would have lost his job, because you know what I mean, fans obviously wouldn't have been very happy. But it turned out to be an absolute masterstroke from his. You know what I mean? But it gave Danny Shittu and Clark Carlisle something else to think about. You know what I mean? I was a lot more direct than Ernie. I ran over the top a lot more and ran in the channels, and that was my game. And thankfully, the goal came from one of those runs and that kind of play, which they were a little bit tired and leggy, and I got a little bit of joy.
I mean, you'll have been asked this more times than you can probably count now, but that goal, talk us through it. It's a great strike.
Yeah, well, it was an awful clearance by Clark Carlisle. He misjudged the ball, tried to clip it forward for one of his forwards, and he hit it straight at Gareth Wally, who took a touch on his right foot. He's obviously notoriously left-footed. Placed the ball over the top. I wouldn't say it was a hitting home, because he was technically excellent, Gareth. Put it over the top and just give me something to run onto, and time to run really well. Got ahead of Danny Shittu, and the ball just lofted up really nicely. It's a loft over Chris Day's head, and you know what I mean. He got extremely close to Danny that day to get something on it, but you know what I mean. Once I'd hit it, I knew it was going in. It was just inch perfect. He didn't get. I don't think he got a fingertip to it. It was just that perfect that it missed his gloves and landed in the net, and then just the chaos after that, the noise after that, but then the realisation of we still got 4 or 5 minutes to play, and then the pressure then ramped up again. That, you know, I mean, we've got to see this through. They're going to throw everything at us, throw the kitchen sink at us, and we had to hold firm. The defence has been brilliant all day, but you know what I mean. I don't think I touched the ball again in the next 4 minutes. I just run around and hope for the best. And you know what I mean. And obviously then played up front a lot on my own, and Thorny dropped back in midfield, and we were throwing balls and pumping balls forward, hoping to waste a bit of time. And, you know, I was so tired, mentally drained, physically drained, considering, you know, I missed a lot of football. I'd wasted all my energy with celebrating and things, and then we had to hang on for the rest of the game, and then cue the celebrations after.
I was going to say, what was it like in the dressing room after that?
Well, just straight after the game, and you know what I mean, I realised then, you know what it meant to everybody. With the first people who came up to us, Leo, Gav Gordon, Scott Young, you know what I mean, who all weren't on the bench and in the squad, that they knew how much it meant for them, to me, to the club, and it was great on the pitch seeing the players celebrate with the fans and Sam and Lenny, etc. And then in the changing room, it was very, very quiet. It was, we all, you know what I mean, we'd all think wasted a lot of energy mentally and physically on the pitch. And when it was in there, we were all sat in the showers and in the baths and having a few cans of lager and just realising, I think, you know what I mean, that we'd done something, but also at the same time not realising how much of a big thing we just done. You know what I mean, we thought it was a big thing, but I don't think we'd realised half, or maybe a quarter, or you know what I mean, how big it was and what it meant to everybody else. Because obviously when we left Millennium Stadium to go and do bits and bobs, which we were all going to plan to do anyway with the club and with sponsors and things, we then realised how big a thing it was. And you know what I mean, the city was just absolutely just in raptures, and it was absolutely fantastic to see. And it probably carried on for days and days and days, and we probably stopped celebrating about Tuesday. I think we went back in training on Wednesday, and it was quite a full over group of players which turned into training on Wednesday.
What did you like about the city? Obviously, the club and will have a special place, but when being down here, living down here, was there anything you loved about the city outside? Just
for me, it was the first city I'd ever lived in. You know, it was very friendly, and it was just it was obviously massive compared to what I'd been used to, and I loved it. I really did love how passionate everybody was, how friendly everybody was, and for me, as long as you give 100% to the football team, then the people give that back to you on the in the streets and wherever you met them. And for me, that was just a given. And you know, I mean, that was, you know, I'd never ever said I was a talent in football. One thing I did do, I just ran around and give my all. And you know, I mean, the way I played, that was just what I did. And thankfully, I got loads back from fans and still do. So it's lovely, really.
The season after that, obviously Cardiff were in. I think it was called the First Division then, wasn't it? Or now the Championship. Your career at Cardiff sort of not fizzled out, but you had a couple of loan spells then afterwards.
Yeah.
Do you look back with any regrets over the way sort of your spell ended?
No, it's similar to what I said to Leo the other day, that my goal was the best thing what happened to my career, but then the worst thing what happened to my career. You know what I mean? Because my Cardiff career, because obviously we're moving into the Championship at the time. They came with new signings, Alan Lee, Richard Langley, etc. And the club going in a new direction, which meant less game time for me potentially, and you know what I mean. So, but I wouldn't change it for the world. You know, that one massive moment in my career and such highlights. I never looked at the negatives of it, and you know what I mean. And it did mean I didn't play as much football, and then subsequently meant that Lenny lost his job because we lost a few more games, and then Dave Jones came in, and I ended up leaving the football club. And you know, listen, I'd never change what happened that day at Millennium Stadium, because you know what I mean, it subsequently did have a negative effect on my Cardiff City career. But I didn't play as much football as I wanted, because the club was bringing in their eyes, better players and moving into another level. And if we didn't do that at the time, we wouldn't be where we are now as a football club. So I've got no plans that teams have to move on, clubs have to move on and push it in a new direction, and they can't stand still. And as a team and as a group, we knew that, because I think the realisation for me came when we met on the Wednesday at the club, that players who'd been offered contracts had the contracts taken away because we got promoted, and then they decided to go to another level. So I was quite lucky. I still had a job and I had contracts. You know what I mean? But for people not so lucky as me, it didn't work out that way.
Where does that goal rank then for you in terms of the goals you've scored? Not just at Cardiff, because I know you scored a great one against Man United as well.
Probably, it's the most important goal by 1,000,000%. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't get any bigger than that. As quality, you know what I mean? It's up there. You know what I mean? I've got probably about 5 favourite goals in my career, and that's just, you know what I mean. For me, I can't disguise how important one is for the other one. But you know what I mean? It's right up there with the best.
We've got a couple of questions to sort of test your memory of Cardiff.
Quiz questions.
So a couple of
questions. Test you.
But
I think, to be fair, so far summarised it very
You've
well.
answered two of them in what you've already said, so I think we can move on from those two. I think you've mentioned Thorny got the goal against Bristol in the semi-final, and it was Ernie who you came on for in the final. I think the other ones are a bit harder. You've got them written down, don't you now?
Yeah. So you scored on your Cardiff debut against Northampton, but who scored the other Cardiff goal?
Oh God! Now you're asking. Gosh. It's going to be a random guess. I don't even know why this lad in my thoughts. But I'm going to go Leighton Maxwell.
Is that
why.
Wow,
absolutely right? Yeah.
Smashed it, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Great answer.
How many red cards did you get in your Cardiff spell?
One against Crystal Palace, unfortunately, and it was the same day that Willie Boland got sent off as well.
It was, yeah.
Oh, you mean it might be too easy.
I think this last one might be the hardest one, though.
Right. So you only took one penalty for Cardiff, and it was saved.
Shocker.
Who was it against, and who saved it?
Leeds United, and it was Neil Sullivan. It was the worst penalty I think I've ever seen anybody take in my entire life, and it finished 0-0, and that was a nightmare. That was a nightmare.
I mean, that Cardiff Leeds is always still a big rivalry to that.
Well, yeah, it was. And to be fair, I don't even know why I took it, and I wasn't down to take it. I just took it because I got thrown the ball, and I wanted to make something happen, and unfortunately, it wasn't to be. You know what I mean? I learned from the mistake. Just the next couple of penalties I did take, I put my foot right through it.
What was it like? I mean, the atmosphere at Ninian Park. Lots of fans today will still say they miss it with the Cardiff. Nothing.
Fabulous. Yeah, fabulous. I don't think you'll never get that back. You're never going to get it back. You know what I mean? It's where it's congregating fans together in the atmosphere. You know what I mean? From different areas. I found at Cardiff that, you know what I mean, behind both goals were different atmospheres. You know what I mean? In the corner next to the away fans was you know what I mean? Obviously the Bob Bank. There was so many areas where you get a different atmosphere, and when things are going your way, not going your way, when the ball goes out, you know what I mean? And this is the roar with the crowd, and you know what I mean? Sometimes you think there was 30,000-40,000 in there, and you know what I mean? There was 16,000-17,000, and the atmosphere was so hostile for opponents and so good for us. It made it a very easy place to play football.
And have you got down to the Cardiff City Stadium much in recent years?
Yeah, I've been back a few times, and obviously I was there for the day that we got promoted to 2-0, and the atmosphere, that's the best atmosphere I've seen back in the new stadium. And obviously we had a walk around the pitch before the game, and the atmosphere before the game was just electric. It was just unbelievable, and obviously after the scenes after were great. But it's just so different. It's, you know what I mean? It's hard to get a number of fans together and singing songs and generate an atmosphere, but it's just the life and times of a new football fan, really. But you know what I mean? Football is a business now. It's not as probably as liked for supporters. There's not as much link. What I find now, fellas, is the link between fans and players is not like it was when I played. And you know what I mean? Obviously, we had the walk from the ground to the car park. The link with fans, you'd have a chat with them on the way to the car, and it doesn't happen anymore now, really. You know what I mean? It's everything separate, and that's from top level all the way down, probably to Championship, Stroke League One. There's some clubs, so it's such a different animal, football now. And
at the moment, obviously, we don't have football.
No.
How are you keeping occupied? How are you keeping your football fix?
I'm loving all the old football which they're putting on, but it's just not like Premier League years, etc. But it's just it's not the same. It's not. You know what I mean? I hear whispers every day that dates here, things are happening, things aren't happening, and you know what I mean, that other countries are going to start. And it's as long as everyone's safe and healthy and fit, then for me, football can take a back seat for now. But we do want it back because it's just the norm, and there's loads of people rely on it for certain things to talk about, etc. But I just want it back, really.
You do a podcast show yourself, don't you? With
we do one. I do one with Ace Podcast Nation on Monday Night Live at the minute. But yeah, we've got some good guests coming up, because obviously we know it's football to talk about.
There we are. Well, if you want to catch more of Andy, you can catch him there. Thank you very much for chatting to us. We really, really appreciate it.
Cheers,
stay safe.
Thank you. What a pleasure it was to speak to Andy Campbell, and fair play to him. What a knowledge he has about the club or his time at the club. I didn't expect that.
No, we remember the game as fans, and I'm sure players remember games, but you hear a lot of players say that they forget games or it all passes them. That was, to remember exactly who scored and pulling Leighton Maxwell out of the that Northampton game.
Quiz,
massively impressive.
Knowledge.
Yeah, and more than that, could remember the first game of the season against Oldham, and then it was a cup game against Boston. I thought, we knew anyway that And as I said right at the start of the interview, it's clear that he loves the club still and has a massive affinity with the club. But to have that memory just proves it all the more so, I guess. That's better knowledge than most fans would have. And I was massively impressed with that. I thought that was... it was lovely to hear. It was really, really lovely to hear.
It was actually quite nice that he remembers all like the good times, and even though he had like poor spells, that he still loved the club. He remembers everything like that.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, club players like that. He was down for the Reading game when we got promoted a couple of years ago, and there's players like that. Kev comes to mind, and McPhail, the sort of players who love the club. They're not not local boys. They're not from the city like you and I, but
but enjoy their time at the club so much that it stays with them.
And I think that's something about what this podcast was. We love the city. We love the sport here. You know, we're from here, and there's just a passion, I guess, with people in the local area and other people who come into the city. Not all of them, obviously, but lots of them get on board with it, and I think Andy Campbell epitomises that as much as anyone. So we've said it more times than I can count now, but a big thank you to Andy for coming on the show. Next week we actually have someone from Cardiff. We have a former Great British Olympian. I've looked up some quiz questions already, so I'm really excited for that one as well. We want to hear your opinions. If you've got a favourite Cardiff goal, if you think Andy Campbell's goal is overshadowed by another, then let us know what it is. If you want to come on the show, I think we've agreed. I've been chatting to Cardiff Baseball. Baseball's not a sport which, I mean, I wouldn't have known that there was a baseball club in Cardiff necessarily.
I didn't know.
You didn't know. I believe, if my memory serves me right, they're called the Cardiff Merlins, and I think we've got the coach, player, and club secretary has agreed to come on. So if American sports is your sport, we've got that. We've got Cardiff Devils coming up, where we've got, as I said, a former Olympic athlete next week coming up. So we've got a bit of everything. Please stay in touch. Please let us know your thoughts. Comment, subscribe, all the rest of it. I'm not going to over promo it, but we are now on Spotify. We're on Deezer. We're on Audio Boom, and of course we'll put everything on YouTube. Keep in touch. Let us know your thoughts, and then we'll hopefully hear from you next week as well. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Capital Conflab. If you have a story you want featured, then get in touch. But for now, until next time, you've been listening to Capital Conflab.